Hey guys, this is Miss Jacobson. Today we're going to talk about the star editing breakdown. Before we begin this lesson, you need to make sure that you have the editing breakdown practice in OneNote open so that you can fill it in as we go along. Our lesson goal is that we will be able to use a testing strategy in order to analyze star editing questions, and then I will practice analyzing editing questions. But Miss, I can hear you saying, I don't want to annotate. Why do we need a strategy? Don't you already make us do too many strategies? Listen, on our writing semester exam, which is that is exactly what a STAR test would look like. It's exactly what the revising and editing will look like when you take your reading STAR this year, because it's going to be on reading this year. So on the fall writing semester exam, the average score for everybody in 6th grade was a 54%. On STAR, a 58 or higher is passing. And the percentage of 6th graders who made at least a 58 was 46%. Of the 46% of people who made at least a 58, only 20% made a 70 or higher. So what that means is, yes, we really do need a strategy to help us figure out how to parse some of these questions, how to break them down, and how to answer them. So what does an editing question even look like? You say editing questions, Miss Jacobson, but I don't know what that means. So an editing question is going to look something like this. How should sentence 15 be changed? A, change chose to choose. B, change Mesa Verde to Mesa Verde. C, delete the comma. D, sentence 15 should not be changed. So if you'll notice, the question's going to ask you to fix a mistake in a specific sentence, but it's not going to tell you what kind of mistake to fix. It's not going to say, select the correct verb, or make the subject and predicate agree, or add a comma. Instead, it's going to offer you a whole bunch of different choices, and you have to figure out which mistake is actually the mistake of the sentence. Each answer choice tests a different type of grammar rule. You have to know all of them in order to find the mistake. So for instance, in this particular question, A, change chose to choose is verb tense. It wants you to change a past tense verb to a present tense verb. B, change Mesa Verde to Mesa Verde is capitalization. It wants you to change a place name with 2 words to a place name with 1 word lowercase. C is punctuation. And then, of course, D does not have a skill. But in order to answer the question correctly, you don't need to just know 1 rule. You need to know 3 different rules. And you have to be able to look at it and tell which rules those are. So this is the strategy we're going to use. And I need you to make sure that you are following along in OneNote with the activity, because we're going to do 2 questions together, and then it's going to be on you. So here is a question from the passage. If you will go ahead and find question number 22, it says, what change needs to be made in sentence 5? Sentence 5 says, well, these dwellings weren't like modern skyscrapers that line the golden horizons of New York City. The first thing we need to do is we need to code the question. We need to underline the important words. The important words in this case are change and sentence 5, because it tells us what we're doing, and it tells that we are changing something in the sentence. We're not combining sentences. We're not removing sentences. We're just changing one sentence. And sentence 5 is which sentence we're changing. Second, we need to underline the sentence in the story. Make sure you are doing this in OneNote as we watch. Then, third, we need to label each answer choice with what type of rule it's testing. So if I look at F, change line to lines, well, I need to look at it in the sentence. Well, these dwellings weren't like the modern skyscrapers that line. The modern skyscrapers line the golden horizons of New York. So line in this case is a verb. It's saying that they line the horizon, so they stretch across in a line. And it's saying to change line to lines. If I add an S to the end of the verb, that means one person or thing is doing it. So that is a subject-verb agreement question. This to these is a singular versus plural question because this is 1, these is 2 or more. Horizons is a spelling question. And well is a punctuation question where we have to know the sentence. We have to know how the sentence is put together. So once we've identified all of those different rules, then we have to actually use the rules to solve the problem. This is where it gets kind of long. So F is a subject-verb agreement question. Well, who's doing the action? What is lining the horizon? Skyscrapers are lining the horizon. Skyscrapers are plural. So if skyscrapers, plural, ends in an S already, then the verb should not end in S. Skyscrapers line. F is incorrect. The next one is a spelling or a word choice. So what is this or these referring to? Well, this dwellings. Dwellings is a place where somebody dwells or where they live. Dwellings is plural. So does it make sense to say this dwelling or these dwellings? This is singular. These is plural. Since dwellings ends in an S, it's plural. So G might be the right answer. But I still have to check my other answers. The next one, H is spelling. I'm not going to pause this video long enough to pull up dictionary.com, but if I look up this word in dictionary.com, horizons is spelled correctly in the story, so H is incorrect. The last one is one of the trickiest ones because punctuation or sentence type answers have the most rules to remember. Even just one answer, you might have to go through 4 or 5 different rules. But it's asking, should I delete the comma after well? The sentence says, well, comma, this dwellings weren't like the modern skyscrapers that line the golden horizons of New York City. First, I have to find the comma. The comma's at the beginning, so when do I use a comma at the beginning of a sentence? If the dependent clause is at the beginning, I put a comma after a dependent clause. If a preposition or a position word is at the beginning, then I use a comma after the preposition. Or if a transition is at the beginning, I use a comma after the transition. Well is a transition, so H is incorrect. Okay, we're going to try with one more. If you'll skip down to question 27, make sure you're marking as we go because you're going to have one of your own to do. 27 says, what change should be made in sentence 22? Although they lived in the dwellings, they still farm on the mesa tops. Okay, step 1, code the question. I'm going to underline change in sentence 22. Step 2, underline the sentence in the story. Step 3, label each correct answer choice. Although versus although is just spelling. That's one we can look up. Farm is present tense. I farm in my free time versus he farmed in the past. If I add an ed, that makes it past tense. Anytime I'm changing commas around, then it's a punctuation sentence type question. And then if I'm changing commas, it's a punctuation sentence type question. So let's analyze and evaluate answer choice by answer choice. A is easy, it's spelling. I use dictionary.com. A is incorrect. B is verb tense. Farm is happening right now. Farmed with an ed happened in the past. I need to still figure out when the rest of the sentence happens. But if I read it, it says, although they lived, past tense. Lived ends with ed, so the rest of the sentence is in past tense. Farm is in present tense, and farmed is in past tense. So B might be correct. I may need to change farmed to farmed, but I still have to check my other answers. C is a punctuation / sentence type question. So I have to find the comma. Where do I see the comma in the sentence? Although they lived in the dwellings, comma. If a dependent clause is at the beginning, if a preposition is at the beginning, or if a transition is at the beginning, then I need a comma. Although is a subordinating conjunction. Although they lived in the dwellings is a dependent clause and is at the beginning, so I need a comma at the end of the dependent clause. That means C is incorrect. My last answer choice says to delete the comma. It's It's going to be the same thing. I need a comma at the end of a dependent clause. That means my correct answer is B. So here are your instructions for the assignment. First off, cross out question 26. We're not worried about that one today. Complete all other questions remaining using the labeling strategy, but you will not receive any credit if you don't use the strategy.